So just thought I'd record something. So I've just been to a killing field in Cambodia. This one's called Chong Ek in Phnom Penh. So a lot of you might have been here. Apologise how I look right now. Really, really sweaty, really hot. Also a lot of animals. There's a chick with all its babies. But yeah, just wanted to give some like immediate reactions just for Instagram. Might post this on my YouTube, the second one, Tabernacle Extra. Go subscribe to that one. But yeah, basically, I didn't really want to come here because I don't like a lot of this stuff. You know, like I've been to Holocaust exhibits at museums and it's just pretty disturbing. And I thought with this one specifically, it might be a bit more like, you know, the senselessness of it. I don't know if I would really take anything away from it, just apart from how horrific it was. But I thought it was like really well done. The audio thing was really cool, just listening to all, you know, survivors' testimonies and just the general insanity of it. I found it really interesting compared to like, maybe when you study like Nazi Germany compared to that, because obviously when you study that, you kind of understand why so many German people went along with it, because, you know, Germany's historically had really bad anti-Semitism. Sorry about all the noises. So you kind of like understand a bit more, but with this one, just how like brutal it was in the name of this, you know, extremely perverted form of Maoism. You just can't really understand why people went along with it so much. But then what this exhibit did was just give you the history. Again, sorry for the cockerel or whatever that is. And what I actually liked about it is something I've been reading about. I didn't realise how much the West backed Pol Pot after he was kicked out of power. And obviously, if you guys know your history, you know the Vietnamese are the ones who got rid of Pol Pot, and he was still backed by China, recognised by all the UN as a legit government of Cambodia, which this exhibit talks about. And what I think that really hammered home when I was watching this is that, listening to this, is that things like genocide, you always think growing up that the bad people get prosecuted and held accountable. You think that with the Nazis and stuff. But what you actually learn is that we're the bad guys in history, like the West are the bad guys, because after the genocide was done, like the SAS I was reading apparently trained the Khmer Rouge, the US gave them loads of money, CIA and stuff like that, and most of the prominent Western countries recognised Pol Pot's government at the UN nearly until he died, right? So when you just look around this place and you're thinking, the Vietnamese thought that everyone would love them for getting rid of Pol Pot, and everyone hated them and they got more sanctions. And that's the same with like the Nazis. You know, when you read about the history of Greece, for example, most people who did the Holocaust in Greece were put in the post-war government, like forgiven, put in the post-war government because they're anti-communist. And that's basically what it comes down to. Like the Americans were still butthurt about the Vietnam War, so they're like, oh, Vietnam coming into Cambodia, we got to get rid of them, so we'll back Pol Pot. And it's just depressing because you think we'll learn the history of genocides, but it's just pretty clear that Western countries that kind of control our world, and China also didn't really give a shit about the genocide either, because they backed Pol Pot afterwards. They just, you know, pay lip service to it. And I think like there's no real what's the word I'm looking for? Accountability for a lot of things, because a lot of the worst people in history get forgiven and they get the history whitewashed. Like I never knew Pol Pot was massively backed by the West until like the last couple of weeks. I don't know if you guys knew that. So yeah, generally that's what depresses me about this stuff. Like when you just read about all this history from Nazi Germany to now, even Rwanda, it's like when we, in our ideal world, right, we look at what happened in Rwanda and we think, why couldn't the UN stop it? Why couldn't they go in there and stop it? And basically they just didn't give a shit. And it was all based on like, you know, ethnic differences, which were caused by European colonialism. And then when Vietnam actually do what people would want people to do, they overthrow a genocidal dictator, the West hates them for it. And I think that's just the thing that kind of was hammered home when I was, you know, seeing all these horrible things, you know, that tree where they killed all those, you know, babies and children. And you just think like there was a country that did it, maybe not just for, you know, unselfish reasons, but there's a country that overthrew the government that was doing this. And the final point I want to make is that they were punished for it. Their lives were made worse. After America already like genocided them, they backed the guy doing genocide in Cambodia. And this is meant to be like a West bad, because I was saying like China backed Pol Pot afterwards and helped Pol Pot afterwards because they didn't like Vietnam and the new Vietnamese government. But yeah, overall, if you know, want to visit one of these things and maybe you think it'd be politicised in a way that's meant to legitimise the current Vietnamese government, the Vietnamese Cambodian government, it doesn't do that. Although I did also learn that the two prime ministers of Cambodia were also in the Khmer Rouge. So it's really, really interesting history here. It's really, really complicated. But this is the one we've gone to. So Chong Ek in Cambodia, Phnom Penh. Really, really recommend. Pretty harrowing. I didn't go in and see like the skulls. Holly did, because I just really don't like that stuff. But yeah, really good audio, listening to the survivors' testimony, and actually made me really more interested in the history of this region overall. So yeah, that's all. That's my take on it. Sorry if I went on a bit of a political rant. And yeah, I'm really sweating, absolutely roasting. and you can obviously hear all the animals going crazy. So yeah, that's just my take on, immediate reaction to coming to one of these places.